Welcome, everyone, to the Squid Ultimate Fan Show. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Leafs fan, and joining me as always, my winger, Ricky Squid Vibe. Squid, how's things?
Things are pretty good, Mike. Couple of big alumni wins against the TTC last on Saturday, and then Monday in Godridge.
Yeah.
And the old guy got 2 hat tricks in a row.
Boy, oh boy, the Leafs are courteous, and well, actually, even more so. Maybe your St. Catherine Saints could use a little bit of that over. Unfortunately, the season came to an end. They lost to a very good team in Wentworth, but regardless, you must be happy with the progress the team made over the year.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, being a first-year team and finishing third and out of 5. And we're playing the team that won the Allen Cup last year. They've been together for 5 or 6 years. I don't think that there's nothing to be upset about. I mean, they got a heck of a team, and we came a long way in the first year. And next year we're probably going to get a few players from Brock that are university that are graduating, and who knows? We had 2 top 6 forwards and 2 top 4 D, and all of a sudden, we're a very, very good team.
Yeah, and I mean, now anybody out there that has somebody that's maybe in the ECHL, OHL, or some league like that, a university player, how do they find you guys for a tryout maybe next year? Contact somebody at the St. Catherine Saints office.
St. Catherine Saints. We have a page on the internet, and so all they have to do is go to our site, and more than likely to be information there as to how they can get a hold of us.
Fantastic. Well, that was a pretty good segue into our next topic, our old Toronto Maple Leafs. But however, the elephant in the room for the last few days has been what happened to the captain, Austin Matthews, and just first and foremost, your view on what happened.
Well, it's funny. At first I thought, okay, like 5 games, like that is not enough. It should have been a lot more than that. But I guess I was reading a thing today, excuse me, George Peros online, and he said we don't look at the suspensions from the past and that sort of thing. We look at the hit itself and what happened, and that's how we came to 5 games, which I still think it should have been somewhere between 10 and 15 personally, but I mean, that's my opinion.
Well, I mean, I think to quote, Judd Muldover, I think it's preposterous that you would use that. You would look at previous history of a player. How is the player going to improve his game or stop committing these fouls if he isn't warned of what he's done in the past is not going to be tolerated and just going to be added on the next time he does something idiotic like this goof did again?
Yeah, well, I'm assuming if he does something like that again, more than likely it'll double or triple what he just got for the last infraction. But but then again, and he also said that they don't look at how long the player's out, which I think is kind of ridiculous, personally.
Yep. Agreed.
I mean, the guy's out for the rest of the season, so you just put a guy out for the rest of the season. Well, why don't you get 15 or 20 games? I mean, when you look at it that way, it does make sense, doesn't it?
And look what he did at the Olympics. He targeted and injured Sidney Crosby, and he deliberately went after him. And he went after him twice. Yeah. I don't care what anybody says. I know Sid is being a gentleman and saying he was just a hit, but he targeted him twice within 5 minutes. And he not only hit him, he followed through and cross-checked him when he was in a vulnerable position, which is what this cowardly guy does every time he hits somebody. He hits defenseless players, and puts them out. Now, Matthews had beat him, and he hits this guy dead on and targeted at him right in the middle center, and that was just an absolute deliberate hit, and that's just disgusting.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. And, I mean, I mean, he's out for the rest of the season, but then again, they go into Minnesota and they win. Like, who would have thought?
That's what the Leafs are going to do. And of course, it's going to happen. They're going to finish sixth, and Boston going to pick sixth, and it's going to be the next Connor McDavid. It's going to be the second coming of Connor McDavid with that pick. It's going to be another, like the Kipper's seeing tonight, Matthew Schaefer. It's going to be a Matthew Schaefer at number 6, like this year. Step in and be a superstar.
Yeah.
But speaking of Matthews, you've been around it all your life too in the National Hockey League. Mentally, how much can an injury like this affect a player, and just even like a Matthews, that he's just what he's going through?
Well, I mean, it's something that, I mean, it happens, right? I mean, it's a sport. It's a physical sport. Stuff like that happens, and I think he's got to just kind of put it out of his mind, just forget about it, heal, and get himself ready for next season. I mean, you can't sit there and say, "Oh, why me? Why did this happen to me?" That sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. That's not going to do you any good. Feeling sorry for yourself. It just, rest, heal up, and get ready for next season.
Well, see, I'm with you 100% now, but I mean, if this was his first real injury, I'd say he'll bounce back, and hopefully he just does exactly what you're saying. But dealing with all these other issues that he's had for the last 2 years and going to Germany, and then you come back after this, the initial pain you're feeling going off the ice and for the next few days, the rehab, the grueling training that you're going through, maybe if you have to have an operation, I mean, all those things, they start weighing on your mind. All of a sudden you're on the ice, you become just that split second hesitant. It just puts you even more vulnerable. Like you've seen a lot of guys, it can ruin your career.
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy, obviously. I mean, I have got to say, I never had to go through that kind of thing. But it's one of those things that, yes, it's going to bother you at times, but I think you just got to battle through it and just kind of try to put it out of your mind and say, okay, I just have to make sure that I do the right things from here on for the rest of the summer and get ready for next season. And I think that's probably the best way to process it and go through it.
Well, if you look at what Sidney
Crosby, it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy. It's, I've seen Builder Lego his first year, and he had a knee injury and missed the second half of the season. And, so it's not easy to go through. And you got to figure at that time, Billy was 20 years old when it happened. He was a 4th overall pick. And in his first season, he gets a knee injury that puts him out for the second half. And he had to get ready for the first half, or for the next season. And he did. He was ready and, played really well.
Well, don't forget, he got hurt the year with the knee again that Gretzky replaced him at the World Cup or the World Juniors. Remember when he was leading in junior? So that was the second one for him. Bob Orr went through 8 and came back. Sidney Crosby with all the concussions and what he's gone through, out again, and he's come back. So it's not that they can't be done. But again, some players are affected just a little different than others. And you just hopefully that, Matthews is mentally strong enough to just push through this and drive himself. And, hopefully he does get that back. But the biggest concern, obviously, outside of the injury to him, which was devastating and obviously hurts the Leafs big time, was the non-response from the 4 players on the ice, or even somebody coming off the bench. It's funny, even at my Friday skate the day after, a few of the guys said, I would have benched the 4 players for the rest of the game. And I thought, actually, that's not a bad idea, And, what kind of got me was Saturday night, both 2 of the players, Riley and Nylander, were wearing A's. And I thought, boy, that's your leadership group. And boy, oh boy. Anyway, I don't know, Squid. I mean, your thoughts on that? I mean, you're sitting there smiling because I can know what you're going to say. If that had happened back in your area, can you just imagine?
Oh, I know. if something like that happened and someone did that to one of our players, there'd be 3 or 4 guys would go right after him right away and just bury him. And more than likely, there's a good chance that somebody probably would have jumped off the bench too. That back then, that was just not tolerated. I mean, there was always a response, and I'm shocked that there wasn't a response. But then again, on the other hand, I'm really not totally shocked, judging by looking at the team and how they played all year. I'm not totally shocked. I'm a little bit shocked.
No, I my two biggest. I have two concerns with the whole thing. One, Nylander not engaging, unfortunately, isn't a surprise. That you'd almost expect.
No.
But to come up with some lame excuse, he made the pass about some lame excuse about following the play, not realizing what happened. Okay, I mean that's just ludicrous. I'm not mad, but I'm more disappointed in Morgan Riley, especially after last year when he went after Greg, who made that stupid play in the empty net, and he went after him. Like that's the Morgan Riley we knew.
Yeah.
I know he took ownership of it after, but he had no other choice with the cameras on his face, and he knew he'd get ripped if he didn't. But I was more disappointed in his lame excuse and not responding. And all this stuff about not following the play, let's be really clear about this. Every hockey player from the time you're 7 years old, 8 years old, you know who's on the ice with you. You have to take account of who's on the ice. Squid, back in your day, you telling me you weren't aware when Gretzky or Lemieux were on the ice versus a fourth liner? And this lunatic,
absolutely.
This idiot on Anaheim, who's the biggest cheap shot artist we've seen in probably many, many years, and won't fight anybody, which usually what these gutless guys do. You're not aware he's on the ice? And then it doesn't even matter that. You look over and there's your player line face down, and this clown is skating away from the play. Like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to put two together that something happened there and this guy was involved. And I don't know what you're watching, but holy jeez.
Yeah.
But my second biggest concern No, go ahead. You respond to that.
No, if you're on the ice, for the life of me, I don't understand how you couldn't have known what happened. I mean, whether you're following the play, whatever you're doing, the play was right there. It was right in front of you. You must have seen it. I mean, you're on the ice. I don't get that. Sorry. If I'm on the ice and I see someone going after one of my players, I see it. And as much as I'm not really a big tough guy or fighter, I mean, I would have went after him if he did that to one of my teammates. No question. It wouldn't even have been it just would have been a quick response. And I probably wouldn't have been the only guy. There probably would have been 2 or 3 other guys following me and tackling the guy and beating the crap out of him.
No, but it's awareness and accountability. And, Jesus, Murphy, I mean, I play beer league hockey and the games look like they're in reverse at times. And I can tell you every time I know somebody's like who's on the ice on the other side, mostly because they may run into me because they don't know where they're going. So you're aware of that, but still you're aware of who's on the ice every time you step on. I don't care what level of hockey you play. So my second concern is if I'm management and I'm watching all of this, or maybe the way management is, maybe they're not noticing this, but my point of the matter, well, let me preface that by saying, if you're a player in the National Hockey League coming in and play for Craig Berube as your new coach, the first thing you're going to do, and if you don't know anything about him, you're going to look up the type of player he was, look at some of his video, his highlights, etc. Look at the teams he was coaching, some of their records, look at their penalty, all that kind of stuff. So you're going to be a little bit aware of the type of player he is and the type of coach he was and what the expectations are. So coming in, you're going to try and play that way. But to not respond when a guy gets hit like that and 4 guys are standing around looking at it, I'm management and I look at this, my first thought is his message isn't getting through, obviously. Like, what more bigger example could you have a team to bond together by defending one of their players who got cheap shotted by the biggest cheap shot artist in the league? There's something wrong. And poor Chief is probably going to take the brunt of this.
Yeah, unfortunately, he probably will, but I'm sure he was pretty disappointed, no question. that there was no response. So let's be very, very clear that he probably was utterly disappointed at no response. But unfortunately, the way the season's going and the way it might end for him too, unfortunately. And it's not a. I don't think it's not on him. It's on the players not responding to the way he wants them to play.
And again, we come back to that fact of the matter. I mean, it's not quite the egg and chicken thing, but it's almost like the players for the coach or the coach for the players. Like who's giving him the players to play the style of game they want him to coach? So it starts there. And yeah, I mean, to your point, I mean, I'm sure he did lose it on in between periods because they came out with a little bit more of an edge in the third period, but it was too late by that point. Although I mentioned to you, we were talking off air. I get a kick watching the highlights now every morning that all teams throughout the NHL, after the and Matthews incident is already the big thing that went through the whole league. Every team now, if some guy gets hit, there's three guys going after to get the defender or the guy who made the hit immediately. So everybody's not going to get washed over the coals like the four guys in Toronto. So that is kind of funny. So they play again March 30th in Anaheim. What happens, do you think? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, my guess is probably nothing. To be quite honest with you, I just can't see. Looking at that roster, I'm not seeing a lot of guys that are going to go after him and do something about it. So, I mean, I might be totally wrong. Somebody might, try to go after him and do something about it. But looking at that roster, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of guys that are willing to do it.
Well, yeah, and make life uncomfortable for some of the young stars on that team. Like Saniki tonight, they were targeting him all night. But this is where you need, and you got to go back to the Wendell days when they were playing Vancouver. Remember, they were going after Dougie, and he finally had enough because he couldn't fight everybody in Vancouver. And he went over to Pavel Bure and said, the next guy that goes near Doug Gilmour, I'm going after you. Okay, you're my target. And guess what? Nobody went near Gilmour the rest of the series. So there has to be some sort of accountability like that. And I'll tell you what, come off the bench, do something. Like, this is a chance. You want to get management's attention and the coach's attention. I don't care if you come off the bench and get suspended for the rest of the year. Earn your mark and do something and go after every one of those players. And you know what, Gudis? He's a piece of garbage. You know what? Forget him. Go after the other players and let the other players look at him in the room after and say, this is because of you. Like, I've got a pack over my eye and getting stitches or whatever I'm getting because of you and the way you play. Thanks. So I'd go after all the other players.
That's exactly what it was like when I was playing. I mean, it was like if a tough guy or somebody went after one of your best players, some of the guys on our team would go up to them and say, hey, you do that again, and the next guy I'm going after is going to be your best player. And then that would just settle everything down. And that's just the way it was done back then. And if you go after my best player, I'm going to be your best player. And then all of a sudden, everything would just quiet right down. They don't want you going after their best players.
And the best player doesn't want you going after him because he don't want to have five guys running every time he goes on the ice. He didn't do anything. But guess what? Make him accountable.
Yeah,
go
exactly.
After these guys. And just make life like
I think that's what you'll see when they play them later on. Is that I think you'll see a couple of guys maybe go after some of their best players.
Yeah.
And then they can go up. If Gudis steps in and says like, what's going on? You say, hey, you did it to our best players, so we're going to do the same thing to your best players.
And you know what? You say nothing. Give him an answer with a Sherwood right across the face. You just say, there you go. There's your answer. And he would have got that
too.
No, he'd have been. Listen, he'd still be at the dentist office if it had been in the old days. That a guy like that, but he wouldn't be doing that because he knows that what the repercussions would be if he would get that. And that's the problem. And that's where the policing in the National Hockey League has to be taken accountable with the players. And as you said, it's on the players, and the players know. And the thing is it's funny. I'd send an email out to these guys I have a chat with before games saying, you know what? If anything else tonight against Anaheim, every Maple Leaf should take a run at Gudis, every Canadian, that is, for what he did to Sidney Crosby at the Olympics. And as a matter of fact, the rest of the National Hockey League should do the same thing. Every Canadian should take a run at this guy every time they play him. And then, of course, he does this to Matthews about an hour later. So anyway, it's a sad thing. And, you as a player, like I was thinking about going in that dressing room in the second period. Now, Matthews may have been in another room, at the hospital room, wherever he was, but how about like locking eyes with him? There he is, bent over on crutches or in a boot or whatever he was, and you're coming off the ice after doing nothing. How can you look him in the eye? Like that would have to be a hard thing to do as a professional athlete.
That would be very difficult. It's not something that I would want to do. But then again, like I said, if that happened to one of my teammates, I might have been the guy that went in there right away. I mean, not that I was a big tough guy or anything, but it's your teammate, so you got to stick up for your teammates.
Instinctively, that's what you have to do, and that's just a part of the hockey DNA, and you do it. Look at David Pastrnak 2 years ago against Florida. He went over to the bench and said, "Can I fight?" Like David Pastrnak, here's a superstar, probably Hall of Famer, and he goes and fights to do something. That's how you win in the National Hockey. And that's why Boston's back in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how you build a team. You build a team with obviously with some skill and guys who can score goals and defend and that sort of thing. But you also need to have some guys with a little grit and determination that, like you said, are going to stick up for their teammates when things like that happen. And if you don't have that, then you don't have a team.
So keeping all that in mind, we know that this year is probably basically right up and they're right. What's the first thing that has to happen in the offseason with the Maple Leafs, do you think?
I think a lot of it depends on whether or not they're looking at a rebuild or a retool, whatever. They have all kinds of different things that they call that. But if you're going to be looking at a rebuild, I think the first thing is you go to some of your best players and say, here's what we're going to be doing. Is this okay with you? And if it's not, then maybe say, okay, well, where do you want to go? And, that's now, will there be any changes? That's hard to say, really. I mean, it's not like Brad Treliving has done a terrible job. It's not like he's done a fabulous job, but it's not like he's done a terrible job either as a general manager. And you can say the same thing about Berube, the coach. I mean, he's tried his best to get them to play a certain style. It's just not in their DNA as the team, and it's just not how they're built. So,
I think that falls on Treliving, right? Because he's making the final decision. So maybe he needs another voice to bounce these ideas off. Keith Pelle, as we said, I mean, he's a great guy, but he can't run 4 teams. He's running an organization, a multi-billion-dollar organization of 4 teams. You need a guy between the GM, whoever that's going to be, and the president, a hockey mind. And as I said, the first thing you got to do, they better up their pro scouting.
I'm in.
Up their pro scouting, because you know what? They're going to have a lot of holes to fill, and they need to find those pluggers out there that are available. And you look, there's nothing at the development level that's ready to come up. These kids that have come up and scoring now, don't forget, they were free agent signings. They weren't drafted. So it all starts at the top.
I think the biggest thing, Mike, is that there's got to be a little bit more communication between the general manager and the coach. And I mean on a daily basis, like where it's like, okay, well, like what kind of, like the GM asking the coach, how do you want your team to play? What do I need to get you so that your team will play the way you want them to play. And then the general manager's job is to go out and get the type of player that fits what the coach wants them to do.
Yeah.
There's got to be a little bit more dialogue between the two of them.
No, I agree with you. And I mean, it starts right there. I mean, it starts at the top. And I mean, any business, and I can only speak to the one I went into, believe me, most businesses don't fail because of the customers or the clients. They're the easy part. Mm-hmm. Service them well and make the money, and they'll deal with you all day long. It's the internal stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like when Ryan O'Reilly left and talked about 2 sets of rules for 2 sets of players in the dressing room and too much pampering going on for certain players. Well, you know who all they were. And the fact remains is that divides the dressing room. And then when something like this happens, like last Thursday, it widens it even further. How many coaches have we had on the pod that have told us every coach knows the X's and O's? That's the easy part. The tough part, and you know this from your coaching experience, is managing 23 different personalities and getting them all to come together and play the same way and get the most out of them all at the same time. That's the real trick. But that's the same as any business.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I did a lot was I had meetings with 3 players every day. So I'd tell 3 guys on the ice before practice, I want to see you in my office after practice. It wasn't necessarily always about hockey. It was, how are things? How's the apartment? Is your wife or girlfriend, whatever, is they happy with it? Is there anything I can do to make things better? And then we'd get into the hockey part. And so they knew where I was coming from. And it's kind of one of those things that, like you said, a little bit more talking between the GM and the coach, a little more talking between the coach and the players. And then all of a sudden, everybody's on the same page and things are starting to click. But I'm not sure that that's happening with our Leafs.
No, it's a sad thing, and unfortunately, they got some work ahead of them. We can't be fooled by the success or any kind of limited success the next 3 weeks. I mean, it's like garbage time in football. That's what we're looking at for the next 14 games. But hopefully, a few players get some. Well, no, I mean, it really is. I mean, you're scoring when it doesn't count. You're playing much more relaxed. You'll do things you normally wouldn't do, or try or moves you wouldn't try normally, or shots you wouldn't make or take, or all these type of things, right? When it's not quite the same. But some players are on additions for next year, and hopefully they can take some confidence home with them for the summer. Like this Gruel is 3 goals in 4 games. But again, there's a kid who's been scoring all year. Here's our Alex Steves from last year doing this year. Why did it take this long for him to get a look with the big team all year? And the team struggled all year. Where's the player development telling us this kid's ready to step up and play? The only reason he's here because they had to bring him up.
Yeah, they had no choice. I mean, it was one of those things where they needed a body, and they brought him up, and then all of a sudden he's getting the job done. And we're like, okay, well, why didn't this happen sooner? And maybe this team would be sitting a lot closer to the playoffs than they are.
Well, this is just to your point about the communication between the coaches and management. Like here's where they should be saying, well, this kid's been playing really well here. I think you should give him a look. He's got 27 goals. Yeah. He's right at the top of the scoring. Or this kid's been really moving the puck well, sees the ice. So I'd like to see him get a shot. Like I think he can help you on your 4th line or your 3rd, wherever. Give him a look. But where are those? Now, maybe they're taking place. About it.
No, I don't think there is enough communication between them, and I think that's one of the issues that is going on, is that there's not enough dialogue between the GM and the coach and the people from the Marlies and that sort of thing. And I did a signing before the Marley game on Saturday, and I went in the dressing room, and lo and behold, there's 3 kids there that played with Justin in Cincinnati this year. So I got to meet them all, and Kerwin, Ben King, and Sim. And Sim's just a kid. He's probably, I don't know, 20 years old, 19, 20. Anyway, they couldn't speak enough great things about Justin and how he is as a captain, organizes everything, gets everything done, that sort of thing. And they said, he's like the mayor of Cincinnati. I started laughing. I'm like,
well, 500
oh my
games.
gosh, like, come on. But they just loved him. And, you know, and that kind of, I think it kind of tells you about what a captain's job is, you know, and he does his job, brings the team together. He plans the rookie party.
Yeah.
He does everything. And that's a captain's job, is to bring the team together. And, you know, that's something that, you know, we haven't seen here for a while.
No, and we don't hear about the development of the players at the ECHL level. I mean, there's one kid that they're a little bit high on at the ECHL team that's been down there a little bit playing for Cincinnati, and I guess he's up at the Marlies now. So, and I think it's that fine kid, and they were talking about today in the paper. But, you know, it's just one of those things, Rick. So we get to so all we can do is send the players home with some hope for next year. So this quote for this week is just to try and keep it positive, try to keep the wheels on the track and keep going, keep working. And that's all you can do. You can't sit and feel sorry for yourself. So here we go. Here's today's call.
Nope.
Here we go. The only person you should try to be better than is the person you were yesterday. Let me repeat that.
Yeah.
The only person you should try to be better than is the person you were yesterday.
Yeah. That is so good. I mean, it's so perfect going into where they're going into right now. And because as a player, that was what, like, at least myself anyway, that was my kind of, I don't know if you call it mantra or whatever, but I just had to be better than I was the game before. And
exactly.
It didn't matter what I read in the paper. It didn't matter anything. It was like, as long as my coaches and my teammates were all pretty happy with how I played, that's all I worried about. Nothing in the paper would bother me. Nothing on social media, whatever. Well, there wasn't a whole lot of social media back then.
That's right.
And it wasn't TSN, and it wasn't Sportsnet. But nonetheless, as a player, I think you have to think that way. That's 100% dead on, because as a player, you have to think that way.
Agreed. Well, I think we sum it up pretty good for that. That's all we got for you guys today. We went on a little bit longer than we normally do, but we want you to check out our Library Squid and the Ultimately Fan podcast, available on our YouTube page or on the Ultimately Fan page, or most of your podcast networks. Hopefully the Leafs can begin a new chapter and salvage something out of this season, although we prefer they finish in the bottom 5 and keep their pick. That's the wink, wink, nudge, nudge stuff that everybody should be doing and not talking about openly, but that's what we'd like to see happen. But anyway, we want to thank everybody for listening, and enjoy the games. Enjoy Matthew Stafford in about a half an hour from now. Schaefer, pardon, not Stafford. Schaefer.
Yeah.